Chapter 59. Dominic was so worried that her brain worked panically and tired to find some explanation and lead through every word that she could remember anything what could help her about that situation. She felt disgust at the moment, next second angry, then something to understand and understood, and on the end she felt empty and exhausted, with strong pain as an opened, burned inside of soul. Her grandmother told her about that, but it was too early. The power which youth made from you is too powerful with wish to change the world, to stop bad, fight for the others, but sometimes the most of it only against own self, said old Professor few hours later when Dominic visited him as usually. So did they discover who made the crime? Dominic looked at him and she felt ashamed because answer was no, said with low voice. They will not, never. For sure, they know, but those causes usually kept for manipulation with people to put and to got control over everyone. He took a deep breath. I wonder why one man or group of people could control destiny of whole population of innocent. Where is the line between God's hand work and the devil's? And where is God why does not react if so many of them live with the horror of reality? We know that God is love and justice comes before or later because of what we wait so long. Dominic used a moment of silence. It was something what I've never waited too long. She didn't expect an answer. She needed to say that someone who probably would understood every side of suffer. This is a straight world where and strange one, wherever, whatever we try to do to find explanation for reasons of some happenings, we can't do it completely. We have to try to find every reason inside of ourselves. The human's mind is uncovered field or fields, and everything what is outside of us is only a lead. How to better learn about deep, mysterious, secret places in our souls. If we do not like something, we have to find reason inside of our mind and memory. Why is something like that? Not to change, not to touch. We not to forget. We have to search and we have to think until problem could be settled. Because everything is in the past, not in the present. Every generation has to create own way of living and facing with life. But the good thing is that is the time seems to be short, that it is useful to analyze and continue with some good creative discover. But everyone No, own mission as own destiny. If you can't remember something, maybe that is not your way to go. Not because you're intelligent is law. Opposite, keep your attention on something where your heart leads you. Everything is inside of our head. So do not forget this, because only reason why everything stand around you serves to you as a sign, as a subject for help to feel better, to remind yourself of something, to work on your spirit. It is a simple, don't be confusion. That is what we call miracle. Professor slowly put a finger on the small icon that was replaced on the hand wood heavy coffee table next to the beautiful old fashioned antique armchair where he was sitting. My grandfather used to say to me how I am too clever and that my brain needs to find a place for new material. But knowledge is never enough. Like the theory that there is too much energy but not enough. She was proud that learned something so wise by her grandfather. He's right, said. I felt betrayed when, after a few days of my rested, I went into a small shop to bought some bread. When these people will go to stop with this mess round, nothing could be changed on that way. This is something what we need to do with own and our hands. Man behind me spoke with his wife. Please, you don't have right to stop anyone for ask their rights on own way. His wife was trying to cut the conversation because of fear or because of she didn't want her husband to get in some kind of dangerous. With the corner of my eye, I wanted to saw how that couple looked like. Were they rich or were they poor? What kind of persons could on such a peaceful way to spoke about revolution? They were in between. Maybe that was the reason, because they didn't had so much energy as the other did. Persons who got used to pass everything, gotten bad, rich and poor, couldn't be surprised because of anything. My next meeting was in the house of some ex-politician. I was passing through the streets with broken glasses and mess everywhere. People were on the fields of the corner of the streets and waited for food and water to arrive. The buildings, actually, what were rest of it, presented a beautiful architecture, presented the culture of very high class and respectful tradition of one people. But it was only a rest of it. I felt so sorry and I felt so unhelpful. Control desks were everywhere. I was afraid to walk and to hadn't think about how I did it. I was terrified. After a walk that was long, but under all those circumstances is looked longer than should have got on the place, which in the comparing with every other that I have passed as a heaven on the earth. And there were white snow that covered trees in the garden and roof with silver eyes and glass of windows. I thought that it was some kind of hallucination. It was so beautiful that I wanted to stay there on the end of golden and watch it forever. How sometimes some lovely things could be there around made by the natural point. Everything reminded me on a fog and lovely dress which my neighbor had first evening when we met. I trusted her so much then in that moment. I thought how I got bit by bit in love with her. But very soon after, I pushed those romantic thoughts and concentrated myself on the reason because I was there on the first place. You're looking for someone? The old man with old blanket on him came behind my back that I didn't hear him. He spoke with a strange Hungarian language, but I understood him even that I didn't have time to learn so much of it. Yes, I am. I presented myself, but I didn't say a name of person that I was looking for. Follow me. He slowly started to move through the heavy snow, and I did as he said. In the house was dark and cold, but interior expressed that those place belonged to a rich family. Wait here. It was more order. I wasn't afraid, even that I knew how everyone became a little bit careful and how those did anything to me and nothing. I didn't know how long I was standing there without made any move when the light turned on in the room on my left side. I saw through the double glasses door how some shadows were moving. The door opened and a tall man in a coat stood in front of me. I was more than surprised. It was my friend who I was looking for. "You're not arrested." That was everything what I could say. "Hello, how are you?" He took my hand. "I see good." He have questioned and answered on it. Yes, I could say so. And you? He didn't say anything, expected, nodded, and showed me to step in the room where light was. "Will be better if we talk here. It is much comfortable," explained when closed door again. "You must be hungry and cold. My friend will bring us something to eat. Then we will talk about everything." I was still in some kind of shock. My friend, as someone who was on the top and most important in the revolution. I knew that he was very ambitious, but not as someone who could had so much power to lead or even begin revolution. "I'm not hungry and you need food. These are hard days." I showed my grateful as an understanding for everything. "Do not worry. We here have everything necessary. Some nice people from the other side help us a lot, he explained. So tell me, how are you? I looked at him with surprise. I thought that you will first ask me about your family. It was very naive from me. My friend started to laugh. You know that we, revolutionaries, do not have family and that our children are our work, our fights. He was a nice man, but at that moment I didn't like him. I So you need people only because of your interest. I was ironic. My vision of better life didn't have that kind of meaning. It is not like that, but until we will not make a normal life for living, nothing can be more important. He stopped to spoke because the man from the garden came into a room with a plate of lovely smell food. Well, you said that revolution has been just started, I said, and looked at a man who had been my friend for years. But in that moment he looked as and one cold and very cold stranger. No far distant stranger, no any lead of warm, enthusiastic young man who gave me a support and was always someone who I've admired. Yes, I know that. It isn't a game anymore. That you are realized how dangerous is so near, answered me with low voice. Because of that, I am more than grateful to you. Glass of wine was in his hand, and the fog of coldness in the room was making different pictures. On the top of it, we are too close. Some people and we mustn't be there. He told something what I didn't understand about what you are talking about. I asked even that I knew how maybe every curiosity could be too much. Some people ask for power and they brought death, and those one who wanted to save the life made proclaimed as the worst. So our life as heroes is not so famous as we want it to be. My friend sounded very sad, and he was survived a trouble lost inside of him. In first moment I felt very sorry for him, but I wouldn't had an idea that so much sorrow he would need it more later. Chapter 60. Chapter 60. Everything has been already found. Only what we could do is to put the same material, little bit different than others before us put. Maybe to add some bit of our opinion or way how we lived through everything, and that is it. Professor kept literature next morning during the show, and snowstorm played live through the window of warm room for meeting. What wise and clever one man should say when something as the end start to knock on the door of destiny. He sounded more mysteriously than usually. Do you want to compare this situation with something what already happened? His students were very clever and in fast moment could reach what someone wanted to express. Something like that. Professor turned to the window and looked as he went into a deep thoughts. What is your opinion? Should we ignore or should we find a way to stood against it? For a few seconds there were silent in the room. But Oleg stood up. Oleg, it was always him. Dominic couldn't stop a smile on her face. I think that if we ignore it, wouldn't be right for us, or maybe persistence of and could be dangerous for the others. If we stood against it, we should do very carefully and then find the proper way to don't irritate it or provoke more bad side, which brings that what we try to escape. If anyone see that we are fear of anything, that would produce a more satisfaction and encourage and reason for that. This is in the case of we are dealing with a person or persons involved with our problems. But if that is something as destiny wrote, then we only have to give strong energy against it. He explained so fast that on the end it was obviously that he lost a breath. Thank you, Professor. Look at him with grateful view and sympathy. You are a brave young man. Oleg was proud. But what I was talking about is specific way how to stood against everything. Shall we fight physically or there is another way? Like run away from it, talk about it. Dominic had her opinion, but she wasn't ready to say anything. But Oleg did it again. If we inform too many people, could be used on the opposite side. What and how we could be sure that we are in between friends. How we could trust everyone. He got a huge applause for everyone present, but that wasn't very satisfied. I didn't know that so much of you don't trust each other or to people, said Professor. You are so young. What happened with you, my children? No one had an answer on that. But the worst thing was that it has been a true. We didn't have time for the love songs. Oleg wanted to relax the tension in the air, and he succeeded. Everyone started to laugh. Ah, if that is a reason, maybe you should. And do it loud so that bad one could hear it. Professor also had a smile on his face, but his eyes had a very worried view. Dominic placed Dominic, please stay a little bit. Professor asked Dominic after a few seconds when he finished his class. Yes, of course, Dominic answered. How are you? He asked when everyone left the room. Well, a little bit confusion, but I'm doing my best, she was honest. I know that you do not have enough experience for this, but sometimes we have to learn the important things through the own work because this situation can be found in the book or there isn't anything. He sat on the corner of the desk, but his look startled Dominic. She knew that he tried to give her support to continue. When you think that you will be finished, Dominic didn't know. I can't tell. Depends of the old professor. He still has so much to say, she explained. Yes, but we can't do anything before his story would not be compared with every other details. Never mind, go and do your work, and after we will see what could show up before or if anything happened. He sounded mysterious, but Dominic didn't pay attention. She was already on the door, trying to, as fast as possible, went on the meeting with her new friend. She had a feeling that the solution would be in his history. Maybe that would change anything, but for sure could brought some explanations and made picture more clear. Chapter 61.